Continuing to follow breaking news from college football with more updates in the Michigan sign stealing case. The NCAA will fine Michigan more than $20 million and impose another game suspension for head coach Sherrone Moore. Moore already had been suspended for 2 games this upcoming season and scheduled to come for weeks 3 and 4. The penalties come in the wake of the school's sign-stealing scheme on former coach Jim Harbaugh's watch, with former assistant Connor Stalions accused of running the operation. Harbaugh's going to receive a show cause, of 10 years, while Stalions is going to get one of 8 years, according to Yahoo Sports. So here's really the big things that you need to know about this. It's a 4-year probationary period. We have that 14 weeks of prohibition coming up. But the big one there, that $50,000 fine and 10% of the program's budget. A lot of big words, a lot of legislation. Let's get to a guy who knows a lot more about this conversation. Our national football writer and analyst, Brandon Marcello, joining us here. Brandon, a lot of information we were just handed from the NCAA. Break it down. What do fans at home need to know about Michigan?
In the end, Michigan gets to keep its national title. I think the president was set there by NCAA President Charlie Baker back in January 2024 when he said Michigan won the title fair and square. So from then on, we knew Michigan was not going to have that national title wiped away from the record books or the trophy taken away from Michigan. But the big thing here is that the NCAA is fining, pretty much giving a tax to Michigan for winning that national title and doing so by cheating through this sign-stealing scandal led by Connor Stalions. About $20 million, if not a little bit more in total when we put all of these financial structures in place. This also includes 2 years of postseason revenue from bowl games, which obviously Michigan doesn't have yet. They're just not going to get that revenue in the future. So in the end, it's just writing out a check pretty much for Michigan to the NCAA, and that's going to be their penalty from now on. And then also, when we talk about game day, how will this affect the seasons going forward? You're just not going to see head coach Sherrone Moore on the sidelines for week 3 and week 4 this season. And then also the season opener 2026, which will likely be against Western Michigan in Germany.
So no Germany for Sherrone Moore, but even before we get there, obviously, Brandon, this impacts this year, and I'm wondering if we can bring back up the graphic that has all of the penalties on it, because there's a couple of ways that we can go here. I want to talk about the budget, the financial aspect of this right there, what we have highlighted, that $50,000 fine and the 10% of the program's budget. What does this actually mean? Like, will we ever really know, what this scandal truly was, and how much is it actually going to cost Michigan?
I think when you look at the document and looking through it so far, is what's interesting is that the NCAA admits that they will never truly know the scope of this scandal, because a lot of information, including text messages involving Connor Stalions, were deleted and never were seen again, and they cannot recover them. They don't quite know the scope of what this is, which could have led to harsher penalties. Also, we're in an era where they're not removing scholarships from rosters anymore. They're more or less just giving you a financial penalty because of this new rev share era we're in. It's kind of changed the game. And then also, the NCAA admits in its report that these violations would usually constitute a multi-year postseason ban, which would eliminate Michigan from contending for a playoff spot for 2 or 3 years, if not more. But the NCAA said that we're not going to do that because most of the people that were involved in this situation are no longer on campus. And here's the other thing. The NCAA process, as we all know, has been super slow over the years. This took 2 years, right? So, of course, the people involved are probably going to get out of town and not be around anymore. But here's the thing I take from this. Going forward, remember, the Power Conference has created a new commission to govern things called the College Sports Commission. And the idea behind that is that they're going to be able to reach decisions on infraction cases much faster than what we've seen here in the past, including this one involving Michigan. So if that's the case, some people who are involved in future scandals might still be on their campuses. So we might actually see the return of postseason bans in future investigations involving programs in the future. So all that to say this is probably the last, the last shot we'll ever see from the NCAA involving a major investigation, because everything now here forward will be handled by this new, more nimble College Sports Commission that'll be handling things. But one thing I don't think will go away is that most programs in the future will now mostly just be penalized financially rather than the typical stuff we've seen in the past where it's vacating victories or postseason bans.
It certainly feels like it's that shift, right? Before, it was such a big deal to lose out on playing in those postseason games. Now it seems like in the wake of NIL and some of the ways the transfer portal has been moving, the financial aspect of this has become such a big deal. Brandon, something that I keep repeating when we're having these conversations is the fact that these coaches and assistant coaches have been assessed a show cause. We saw Jim Harbaugh get 10, Stallions 8. What does that mean for fans at home who are listening and wondering what a show cause is?
Well, if you're already out of college football and you get that show cause penalty, it makes it almost impossible for anyone to hire you because you're going to have to go in front of the NCAA and have them hear you out as to why and how you would handle things in the future. It almost makes you unhireable during that time. We have seen some coaches get hired during a show cause penalty era. For example, Bruce Pearl at Auburn, he was hired right near the end of his show cause, but again, that was a difficult sell even for Auburn, but they did so knowing that the show cause was going to end very soon during that time. It would be very difficult, if not impossible, for a program out there to hire Jim Harbaugh within the next 10 years and do so knowing that he's going to be under so much scrutiny. But the thing to really watch here, of course, is Sherrone Moore being under this kind of show cause penalty and having closer eyes on him. It just means the NCAA, and for that matter, you would think the new College Sports Commission will be very focused on anything Sherrone Moore does, and for that matter, anything Michigan does. So in a lot of ways, they're in a bit of a tighter box now at Michigan, and they've got to really follow the rules very, very closely.
I should mention as well, Sherrone Moore was also given a 2-year show cause, and so that led to obviously the suspensions and all the things. So there's just a lot of legalities that go into this. We do know, Brandon, that Michigan's going to hold a press conference today about 1 o'clock Eastern. What are you expecting to hear from the Wolverines in that conversation?
Well, I think you're just going to hear a lot of the explanation. I don't think you're going to hear anything groundbreaking. I think you'll probably hear that I would think they're going to accept these penalties, although that will be the interesting question. Do they plan to appeal anything? In my opinion, looking at this and what could have been, I would think Michigan would end up being okay with this, but we shall see. I don't know if you want to fight the NCAA on all this when, in the end, the only thing they're really losing is some money. And at a program like Michigan, yes, that can, quote unquote, hurt you in the pocketbook. But in the end, you can move money around within a university, and it doesn't really hurt you. The way I look at this, we're talking about a program that has hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And in some ways, this is just a tax against Michigan football for what happened in the past. And they're going to pay for that over the next couple of years. And then after that, they'll wash their hands from it, and they'll move on.
What did our former Dennis Dodd said, 0.001117% of Michigan's total endowment of over $17 billion. Brandon, Marcello, a lot to wade through there, but we certainly appreciate having you on the show, bringing us the latest when it comes to those suspensions for the Michigan Wolverines. Plenty more conversations like the one we just had with Brandon Marcello on his new podcast. The College Football Insider's got a great group of guys bringing you the latest behind the scenes and on the field with the College Football Insiders podcast. Scan that QR code on your screen right now to get locked in.